Well, hi everyone. Welcome to what I thought was something I should do, which is to go through some of the comments that came to my Trump and Reset video a few days ago, because the comment section kind of overwhelmed and surprised me with the real interesting variety of responses, the real interesting information that came through, real interesting suggestions, real interesting feelings of what people thought. And it was, to me, the reading was so good of it. I tried to respond a little bit to them, and then I realized there was so much coming in, and there was so much to consider that I kind of just had to stop commenting myself. And that's when I thought, I think it's better to do it this way, because there's so many interesting things in some of those comments that a lot of you might not have read. And here's a chance to share some of these ideas and some of my sort of responses to them. I've only chosen like a few comments. I've chosen about 15 that I thought either were some way interesting or I thought could lead to something that I could share. I'm not going to refer to anybody's comment by name, so in case people kind of want to be a little bit anonymous in their comments. But of course, if you want to know who it was or more detail on what they said, you can go to the last video and see the comment section. Also, just because I haven't chosen your comment doesn't mean I didn't like it. I've actually read every single one of them very carefully. And so these are just ones I've picked out for the sake of this conversation. And one thing to me that's really interesting about this whole period in history now, Max Eigen had called this the whole scenario we're going through a giant universal IQ test, and that most humans are failing. I see it also as like a Rorschach test. Did I say that correctly? Rorschach. You know the thing where they show you a picture, like an ink drawing, and your subconscious fills in what you think it is. And I think there's a lot of that happening too. I think as much as we're trying to figure out what's going on is also revealing a lot of our beliefs about ourselves, beliefs about reality, and revealing a lot of things about where we really are. Not where we think we are, but where we really are at this moment, sort of personally on our own journeys. So I see it as a bit of a Rorschach. So I also took it that way. It's really interesting in the comments. With the Donald Trump stuff, I'm not going to say very much because that's so hard to really conclude. I'm just saying it's a marker of something. We don't know what it is. I still find it interesting, though, the number of people, not so many in the comments, but are still on other internet sites, still thinking Trump is here to save the world, that he's going to, all of a sudden in the next 5 days, all these people are finally going to be arrested and they're all going to be in Guantanamo Bay, and he's rescuing children from sewers and whatever else. And I mean, guys, it's been 4 years. Not one verifiable thing has happened. Not one. There's been lots of talk, lots of speculation, lots of clues, lots of whatever, but in the actual reality that you and I see on a day-to-day basis, what's actually occurred is zero. And the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, so I'm not expecting any of these things to ever come about. And I think that's all I'm going to say about it. Let's move on to resets, which is the real topic of this discussion that brought up the interest. And one comment that came up a few times was, and this was very interesting, it was this idea that perhaps the reset as being set up, as being described, isn't bad. That the reset isn't being made by the controllers. That the reset is something focused within the dream itself. That there is an end point. You know, there's a certain point in any video game you play that, for example, that you can't go past it. The game will just end at that point. You have to go back and start again no matter what. And so perhaps it's actually a good thing to reach this reset point, in that no matter how bad things get, they can't go past the end button and you have to go back to start. And it's actually the controllers, the people in charge, that don't want the reset to happen. They're saying we are trying to reset reality, but what they're really doing is stopping the reset. And a lot of the technology that's in place and the new technology that's coming and will be coming is really about energetic frequency and energetic control of not letting the reset that is supposed to happen. That's one potential comment, one potential idea that came out of these things, and I think it's worth really considering. Another one that came up, because I was talking about the definitions of the word reset, and someone suggested, well, have you looked in Black's Law Dictionary? And of course I hadn't, and of course, why didn't I think of looking in Black's Law Dictionary? But when I did my cursory review of Black's Law to see what the word reset means in actual law terminology, because all words mean something completely different in law than they do in normal life. And all I could come up with was two specific definitions of the word. One regarding the receiving or harboring of an outlawed person, which I've never heard of anything of that definition before. The other was a type of reset payment, a reset payment in kind based normally on bonds. And so, in some sense, of course, a lot of people have talked about this being some sort of financial reset, and talk, of course, about the loans that really exist that countries have and where they come from, and the bankruptcies that countries, of course, that had filed decades ago, or even in some cases 100 years ago, that have been kept very quiet from the general public, and what these country bankruptcies have actually meant, and that this reset is referring to some sort of alteration in this loan system, which I think probably is going to be tied into whatever's going to happen with this likely economic collapse and whatever's going to be soon around the corner from the standpoint of our world economies. But I think that's not a reset to me. That's more like a restart, right? Like if I restart my computer, I just go back to where I was a little while ago. If I reset it, if I go back to a factory reset, it goes back to the day I bought it, with no programs, nothing I've downloaded on it. It's gone, right? Just wiped out. Or of course, sort of wiped out. That's the other thing to remember. If I reset a computer to factory reset, in theory, everything I've had on the computer is gone, but of course it's not. A really good programmer can get into that computer and still dig out all the stuff that's supposed to have been deleted. So I think just because the reset happens doesn't mean that things are deleted. That leads me more to the idea of a time loop, leads me more to, I don't know if you've ever read the book called Replay by Ken Grimwood. It was the first novel I read coming out of the experience in the canyon, and I took that as a real sign of information. It's one of the reasons why time loops, and I'll get to parallel realities, have really had an impact in my world. And it's possible, and some people said, when I've talked about the time loop, they've gotten frightened by that. Some people in the comments talked about them being concerned about that concept. But the challenge, of course, of a time loop is that you go back in it, like the characters in Groundhog Day, they all go back to the start of the day, remembering nothing of the previous days. Only Bill Murray was the only one who had memory of his previous days. And again, I'll sort of say something at the end that even if the time loop theory is correct, the question is, and you have to go back into an additional round of your life. How much can you be able to remember? How much can you call up? How much can you be able to guide you in another loop, potentially, that you can take all of your experiences and knowledge, or not all of it maybe, but some of it, into your next rerun of this life. But I'll get into more of that as we go on. The computer definitions of reality, of course, came up quite a bit, considering that the word reset, that we're going through a virus, because that's what happens, right? You have a virus on your computer, you need to reset or restart, usually reset your computer to get going again. And given that we're using computer terminology, and that the reality seems to have a holographic computer structure, I don't think that the use of the words we're going through right now at this exact time is by accident. So is our reality matrix computer about to be shut down? You know, is someone that we're calling the game of life going to get bored and, you know, finished and hit the start button and you know, these kind of things? So, and then another person commented after that how cities are laid out like circuit boards, and just sort of a lot of the nature of reality has a somewhat computer setup. So I'm just throwing that out there to remind you. Another comment that came through, it was very long. I printed it out. This one was 2 pages long. Extremely interesting. I can only call it his holographic sun projector theory, which talks about, I would just say, the story of the 7 days of Genesis as a creation of a holographic projected world similar to Plato's cave. It really was interesting reading for me. I'm not saying I fully agree or fully disagree with it. I just found it very fascinating as to take that part of the Old Testament, which is probably actually the early book of Genesis is probably the most truthful part of that book, and look at it with new eyes in a deeper potential sense related to reality and to what's going on right now. So I found it quite fascinating. So it's there the whole thing is there on the other comment section. You can go and pick it up and find it. If you're looking for early on, you'll see the words like "Let there be light," and you'll know you've hit that comment. I found it really interesting to read. Another one who mentioned something on a similar line, he was connecting to the famous Norse tale of Ragnarok, which he saw as a type of reset, which is also interesting that in the Ragnarok, which is kind of the semi-world destruction myth in which the earth is destroyed and then you might say reborn into a new clean earth, I guess is a way of pronouncing it, that the Ragnarok has one of its initial points is when the snake, the Jormungandr, lets go of its tail, and that begins the sort of the thing to happen, which can be seen as a reset. The way the Ragnarok is set up, even though it's in an old mythological way, it can be seen as discussing a reset. And it's just interesting because we talk about time often as the Ouroboros, that as long as the snake is biting its tail, we've got time as a circular loop. As soon as the snake lets go of the tail, time is broken. And I do feel, as some of the other people in the comments have mentioned, that whatever this reset thing we're going through or supposed to go through, time is part of it. There's no question. In some way, time is going to be part of what's happening. I'm sure many of you have noticed for the last at least 10, maybe 14 years, I've been talking about time speeding up. That you've noticed there's less and less time in the day. People they're feeling more and more stressed because they're trying to do the same amount of things they used to do 15, 20 years ago, and you can't get them all done. The current 24-hour day is maybe like a current 24-hour day is maybe like an old 22-hour day. And so you're trying to fit 24 hours of time into the old 22 hours. You're thinking if you get 8 hours of sleep, you're doing fine, but that's the 8 hours of sleep is not the same as, you know, what it used to be. All of that, all time, what we see it as less. That current 8 hours, well, that's really like the old 7 hours. Everything is squeezed, everything is tighter, and so I think time is a factor within this reset. Again, a number of people talked about the concerns they had that what I'm presenting or this idea of a reset is quite scary to them. Another concerning, like, well, does that mean we're all going to die soon? And simple answer, yes. I mean, we're all going to die, and we're all going to die soon. Soon might mean 2 weeks, soon might be 50 years, but that's the one guarantee in this life. The only money-back guarantee you've got in life is that you're a being that is going to die. And in fact, every being on this planet or in this reality matches you in that only one thing. We are all beings that are going to die. And as long as you are afraid of your death, in fact, this entire experience we're going through right now, with all of the insanity, all of the craziness, all of the things people are doing, and the rights and freedoms they're giving up, it's all because at the core, there's a fear of death. And that fear of death is overriding a more logical, sane viewpoint of what's going on. As long as the powers can tap into people's fear of death, they can start getting them to do almost anything that they want. As soon as the fear of death leaves you, however that happens in your world, right? For me, it was actually going through death, seeing what it is, or some of what it is. I can't say I know all of what it is. But once you've done that, if you embrace it, death becomes your friend. Death is now this thing that's not this scary moment soon to come. Death is this moment that's soon to come that reminds you to live really deeply now. Use the time that's available, since you don't know how much you have. Use it with incredible force and power and clarity. So, and, you know, who knows what will happen or will not happen. But if you tap into fear in any level, then you're tapping into the energy frequency drop. The energy frequency drop that's happened that Matt and I talked about, fear is a key factor, and that's happening. So anything that locks you into more fear is pulling you down in the frequency drop. It's just natural. You're going to be pulled. Maybe not all the way down, but you're going to be pulled down. And so if you are in some way concerned about this topic, then see if you can make friends with it first. See if you can find a way to not make it the enemy, but make it something that generates power in your seeking. You know, Carlos Castaneda was very clear. Death is just over your left shoulder, and death will never lie to you when you ask it a question. It'll always be honest. Okay, let's go on. Yeah, so another one is talked about, of course, parallel realities. And that it's also a topic that I've found tends to generate a lot of concern for people for some reason. They don't like this idea. And that's, I think, a very egoic feeling. The ego has set up that I'm me, I'm special, I'm unique, I'm the only one of me, and my experiences are very, very important, and what I've done is important, and what I think is important. And as soon as you start to entertain the notion that there might be 10 million me's living in 10 million different, slightly different realities, then the specialness of my life goes away. But it makes complete sense to me that why, if they say part of the reason for reality is so that we can have experiences, the creator, right, the thing that created us can have experiences as us. Why would we have just one lifetime with minimal experiences? Wouldn't you want to have 10 million lives from that individual character so that you squeeze out every possible experience the character could go through in the course of a lifetime on planet Earth? Of course you would. That's just natural. And I have a video down below where the first 15 or 20 minutes of it, I talk about parallel realities and my personal experiences about them. Because to me, for me, parallel realities is not something that I've read in a book. Parallel realities is something I've experienced. I've actually experienced alternate me's, and I've experienced lives as alternate me's, and I know I've had switching at times of my consciousness between a me in this dream now and me in another dream that's similar or not so similar. I've seen a lot. So you could go see that video if you want to hear a bit about my experiences with parallel realities. But it to me dampens a lot of the fear and guilt, or not so much, the guilt or that we might take in our lives. Something that in this life a choice was made and we feel we made the wrong choice. I did the wrong thing there, and my life's been difficult since. Okay, that's probably true in this life, but it has to mean in other parallel realities, you had the same choice, but you made a different choice. your life is going on a different realm. And it's the same thing. If you if you saved a child from drowning in the lake in this dream, in other dreams you didn't. The child drowned. So the so-called perfection you think you have as an individual, or the error and mistake you have as an individual, is only based on the experiences of one lifetime, in which I'm pretty sure there are 10 million yous having these lifetimes. It'll all even out. You'll have done you'll at least have done same number of good and bad things in all of your lives. Hopefully your choices have, not had them all equal, that you move one side ahead of the other in as many lives as possible, but you can't avoid this side. You can't avoid, in order for dreams to happen, sometimes you have to turn multiple realities. Sometimes you have to go right, sometimes you have to go left. You can't always go right or go left every single time you come to the same choice. You'll have the same experience. And if reality wants experiences, then it's going to artificially produce elements to make you make different choices, to lead different lives. That's just seems almost guaranteed to me. And some of what we call dreams, so I know some of the dreams I've had, because some of my dreams have been just, but some of the dreams are so real, so unbelievably vivid, of just regular life situation. Nothing major is going on. It's just a life situation. But when I get up, I feel that that's a real experience I've seen. I have trouble as I walk around thinking, did I dream that? Or did I just remember something that did happen when I was 22 and I've forgotten it now? But I now, over time, began to see that what I was actually tapping into was myself in a different reality who did have that very experience, and somehow in the dream state, when I was, consciousness wasn't as locked into this one projection, it could shift or at least touch these other projections. And some of these other lives can come through in your dreams. I don't want to go more into parallel realities. If you really want to, if you leave enough comments, I can have a whole video on parallel realities if it interests you. But I think that's something to keep in mind and tie into what's going on in the reset department. Some others, of course, have reminded we've all been waiting for the next changeover of the precessional age. We've been in the age of Pisces for a long time, and the expected move to the age of Aquarius. Some have said this has already happened. Some have said this was soon happening. Some said it will happen in the future. We've got the possibility of pole shifts that have been talked about. Was way back as guys like Charles Hapgood writing those books in the 1950s, talking about crustal displacement, and so these ideas of, and even in what Hinduism, right? We're supposed to be we're in Kali Yuga now. We're supposed to be heading into the new Yuga, the new realm, the new world age in Hindu philosophy. So it's kind of been on in everyone's consciousness, right? The end of the Mayan calendar. Mayan calendar was supposed to end in who knows what year, right? So, Mayan calendar ended in 2012. Well, we don't know that. We do know that there was a Mayan calendar. We do know the Mayan calendar has an end date, but we have no idea what the real year is on our calendar based on all the things that have happened to it, based on all the things that have happened with the calendar in the past. There's no way we can really properly translate an ancient calendar to where we are today. We actually have no idea. We know that it has an end date. Likely it's maybe somewhere close to where we are now. Some have even said it's this December. I don't know. But that's also in the mix, right? All of these mythologies have been playing of the idea of a new world. So I'm just throwing that out. Just some general comments. Now, one was interesting because one guy was saying that if we really want to change in the most far-reaching way, we would just have to take over the mainstream media, because that's what the masses consume on a daily basis. So in a sense, if truth had control of, real truth had control of the media, truth would permeate into the dream extremely fast. And of course, that's really interesting because that's how the movie They Live ended, right? In 1988, when Rowdy Roddy Piper blew out the television transmitter that was sending the signal out that kept everybody from seeing the aliens. Once the signal was gone, everybody could see them. And so I just point that out because it's just so similar to the They Live metaphor. A number of people have talked about how they see this will be, what part of the reset is a change of the mental state, a change of awareness, a change of seeing, which of course could be, and again, maybe that's what the frequency drops is trying to do. It's trying to stop the some sort of awareness jump in consciousness to try to stop that from happening. And maybe there's only going to be a few of us who have that opportunity through this scenario to make the frequency jump. And what happens if we do, if that's true, or if it's this, as I mentioned with the Hopi prophecy, where the Hopi prophecy says we're getting to the point where you've had to make your choice, material or spiritual. You've made your choice. Like you might say true or false, right? Matrix or reality. What have you chosen? And at some point you won't be able to get off the train. Your choice is your choice. And what will life be after the choice point? I mean, for those who've chosen material and those who've chosen spiritual, will everyone still reside in the same reality? Will reality like split almost like figuratively, like or even literally just split off into two realities? And I don't know, but I'm throwing that out there, right? This is just a discussion of possibilities and things to get you to think. What else was kind of interesting here? I'm just going to zipping through a few of them. One of the last comments I made to somebody was, I said, one of my comments, I think the most important thing for us now is to work real hard to keep our awareness clear and full. Whether we keep living in a world as it is, living in a world of great shifts or transition or to some other realm or even a death state, the clearness of our awareness might be the only thing in the process we have any control of. And then the woman I commented to said, wow, great. How do we keep our awareness clear? Oh, yeah, good question. How do we keep our awareness clear as the world gets more and more crazy? So I think that'll have to be a topic for another video. I think the end of this is letting you know that, okay, that's one of the things, all of these really interesting discussions came out of this comment section, but to me that's the one that's even more direct, the one that says, okay, how do we keep our awareness clear? So I want you to know that I will put together a video in a week or so and share at least some of the ways I think we might be able to do it. Last but not least, as I know some of you are also watching my lost analysis, which I hope is finding somewhat interesting, and again with the ideas of loops and Jack's dream and all sorts of things related maybe to reset ideas. But I just picked up something again related to Donnie Darko that I totally forgot, because Donnie Darko is the next thing I'm doing. It's the next video in a few days. So many people I think are waiting for it, and I've been kind of waiting for Donnie Darko too. I love the movie. So, but Donnie Darko was set in the year 1988. That's the year that the events took place. And if you look at the lost numbers which had been brought up, which had been running, remember, been running on a loop on the island. Apparently, I think that's true. The loop started in 1988. So that would put the loop of the numbers and Donnie Darko in the same year. Sort of again, another hidden connection between the two. So I'm going to leave it there without going into more ado. I don't think I've answered anything, but I just wanted to bring up all of these interesting perspectives and comments and share some of mine with you. Again, not that mine are correct. Mine are just, it's like a Rorschach. This is helping you see what's at the depth of your being, what's at the depth of your experience, what's at the depth of your own seeing. Bring it forward and present it, and not only for others, but present it to yourself. Kind of see, what do I believe really? Why do I believe that? If I have faith in something, why do I have faith in it? For sure. If I'm afraid of something, why do I have this fear? Why do I think the fear exists in me? And it's a real good chance to know more about yourself through this whole experience. That can be one great part of this, is as all this stuff appears, you can really find out more of the depth of your subconscious and unconscious existence. And of course, it's more of a chance to dig through this tangible sort of reality and try to figure out, well, what the hell is this? What kind of reality is this? And what do we do about it? So I look forward to the comments that will come on a video about comments. We'll see what this might trigger and what kind of conversation develops after this. A few days it'll be Donnie Darko, and we will get to the how to stay clear and aware right after that. Thanks for joining. Obviously, for your comments, for your subscriptions, for your kind words, encouragement, the books you're purchasing, the PayPal donations you're making. It's all really appreciated, and helps me keep my energy, keep my focus, and keep me being here to try to share something of value with you. And we'll see you with Donnie Darko really soon.